Hello, welcome to BBC Newsline. I'm Declan Harvey. The convictions of 3 men for murdering a man in 1975 have been upheld. George Kirkpatrick and brothers Eric and Cyril Cullen served 14 years in jail for killing Catholic teenager Francis Rice in Castlewellan. It was claimed fresh evidence cast doubt on their guilt, but this morning the Court of Appeal disagreed. Lindsay Telford has this.
There was applause in the public gallery as a judge ruled that a bid by the Castlewellan 3 to have their convictions quashed had failed. The family of Francis Rice, who was 17 when he was abducted, stabbed to death and dumped in a laneway in Castlewellan in 1975, said they always believed that the 3 accused were guilty.
Well, I'm glad that justice has been done, which has been 50 years we've waited for this. But to get this cleared up. We knew they were guilty, knew what they'd done, but they kept bringing it up all the time.
George Kirkpatrick and brothers Eric and Cyril Cullen, who served 14 years in prison, have always maintained their innocence. The case was reopened after the findings of a BBC Northern Ireland Spotlight programme in 2018 cast serious doubt on their guilt. Their appeal centred on the alleged concoction of confession statements by police officers who were later discredited by another court. But the Court of Appeal said today that didn't mean that the 3 men's convictions were unsafe. Eric Cullen, who's the only surviving member of the Castlewellan 3, was in court today with his legal team.
The families and Eric have maintained their innocence for over 30 years. They still maintain their innocence, and we're going to consider the full judgment. The full judgment will be released this afternoon, so we'll look at that in detail and see what other options are available to the family.
For one family, relief today that 50 years after the murder of their loved one, for them, justice has been upheld. Lindsay Telford, BBC Newsline at the Court of Appeal in Belfast.
Country music singer Lisa McHugh has been describing the horrendous 10 days she says she spent as her baby daughter was treated in hospital for the respiratory virus RSV in November. New figures suggest baby Hallie was one of over 1,000 infants to contract it here since September. The rates of infection have been described as particularly high this winter. Here's our health reporter Aileen Moyna.
It is horrific. You feel so helpless. And it's the most horrible feeling for a parent to go through, to not be able to fix, what's going on or help.
Lisa McHugh's daughter Hallie was just 4 months old when she was admitted to hospital with RSV.
It's all a blur, to be honest, and it's still something I don't think I've fully processed. She wasn't feeding at all, so she had to be tube fed. She had to then go on oxygen because her oxygen levels were declining.
Within days, her condition deteriorated.
It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous to see your baby lying there. I'm probably going to get upset, but being so helpless, it's horrible because you can't do anything for them. You're trying to, you would just take it away if you could, but you just kind of have to go through the motions with them, and she was in the best place.
RSV is one of the common viruses which cause coughs and colds. It can be particularly serious for babies if they're struggling to breathe and feed.
For a very young baby, particularly an ex-premature baby or a baby who maybe has an underlying heart issue, it can be very dangerous. The majority of babies, it's just an unpleasant illness, but for those particularly at risk, it can be potentially fatal.
Since September, an RSV vaccine has been made available to pregnant women from 28 weeks, but it was too late for Lisa.
Had it been something that was offered to me at the time, knowing what I know now and what we've been through, I would 100% take it myself.
Little Hallie is slowly building up her immune system, but is doing well. Aileen Moyna, BBC Newsline, Enniskillen.
Survivors of historical institutional abuse have appealed to the First and Deputy First Ministers to extend the deadline for a compensation scheme. As it stands, claims cannot be made beyond the 2nd of April this year, but campaigners say even though it's been operating since 2020, some victims haven't yet come forward, while others haven't been made aware of the scheme at all.
Dealing with this tragic episode in our history has taken a toll on all of us. Not just on not just on victims and survivors of historic constitutional abuse. But our families, our friends, and our loved ones.
Well, the head of the GAA told the Sports Minister that problems redeveloping Casement Park would have been dealt with by now had it been a soccer or rugby ground. The remarks emerged in the minutes of a meeting between Jarlath Burns and Minister Gordon Lyons. Plans to rebuild Casement date back to 2011 and were developed alongside proposals to upgrade Ravenhill and Windsor Park. Now, both those venues have been modernised. Our political reporter Brendan Hughes has more.
This was the dream, but this is the reality. 15 years since a new Casement Park was first proposed, it's still lying derelict. With plans for the Euros dropped, our frustrations at fever pitch. Fraught and tetchy was how some described this meeting between the GAA and the Sports Minister, and now minutes reveal what was said behind closed doors. According to the minutes, GAA President Jarlath Burns questioned why the Minister had not attended a GAA match. Gordon Lyons said he's willing to attend, but he does not accept engagements on Sundays. Another GAA official, Stephen McGeehan, said if Casement's problems had happened in soccer or rugby, they would have been dealt with by now. The Minister said Casement has been treated in the same manner as other projects.
It's the third and final project of the Regional Stadia programme.
Several months on, with no movement in sight, MLAs are asking questions.
That meeting happened back in October. Has the Minister met with the UK Government since that to discuss the level of funding the Treasury might make available?
Minister, will you give a clear commitment here today that the GAA will not receive more than its fair share of funding?
Since Casement Park is a priority for your department and a flagship project for the Executive, can the Minister list the organisations and people he has met or corresponded with?
But the Minister kicked back.
It was not me that took a judicial review in order to get the planning permission quashed. It was not me or my actions that resulted in a committee inquiry around safety certificates for Casement Park. It was not the actions of myself that led to a 2015 Cabinet Office report that revealed chaos behind the stadium project.
Gordon Lyons says he's written to the Secretary of State asking for an update on his position. But with millions of pounds still to be found from somewhere, completing Casement Park is moving well into extra time. Brendan Hughes, BBC Newsline, Belfast.
More than 70 firefighters have been tackling a significant fire at a recycling plant near Coleraine. They were called to the site on the Craigmore Road shortly before 2:15 this morning. Local residents have been advised to keep their windows and doors closed because of the amount of smoke. No injuries have been reported. OK, weekend weather time. Barra's got the details. Hello.
Thanks very much. The weekend weather not looking too bad at all for the outdoors. A bit like today. We have a lot of cloud. Now, there could be a few spots of drizzle in the west, but most places dry today. The southerly winds continuing. Temperatures 10 or 11 degrees, so about 4 degrees above normal for the time of year. Lots of cloud this evening and overnight. Those winds coming in from the south, brisk at times as well around the coast. But we're looking at lows generally in and around 6 or 7 Celsius, so not too cold. Now, to start the weekend tomorrow, a bit like today, there will be a fair amount of cloud, especially during the first half. But that said, around the coast, for example, some rays of sunshine coming and going, and later on some more rays of sunshine pushing northwards across the island. So hopefully quite a few of us get a ray or two to enjoy. The southerly winds continue to bring in the mild air, so temperatures staying in the double digits for most. Well, we're looking at 10 or 11 degrees for parts of Northern Ireland by the end of the day. Now, not a bad end to the day tomorrow, overnight into Sunday. Not too cold, temperatures 5 or 6 degrees. Sunday for the most part dry, but gradually we have this weak weather front coming in from the Atlantic. It's likely to bring a few splashes of rain, particularly from late afternoon into the evening. So a lot of dry weather expected before that happens. And even when the rain does come, it's not going to amount to very much at all. Into next week, a lot of dry weather in the forecast, at least until the middle of the week. Temperatures gradually falling back closer to what they should be for the time of year.
A signed summary of the news is available now on our website. Join me if you can at 6:30 here on BBC One for a full roundup of the day's news. Right now, though, back to Sarah in Salford. Bye-bye.